The invocation this morning is from the Reverend Margaret Weiss. The church has left the building. The church is the gathering together of all the people and experiences and fear and love and hope in our resilient hearts, gathering however we can to say to the world, welcome, come in, lay down your heartache and pick up hope and love. Our first hymn this morning will be O Christmas Tree, and I invite you to rise and sing quietly behind your masks with joy and enjoyment of the season.
Oh, Christmas tree, oh, Christmas tree, how lovely are thy branches, not only green when summer's here, but in the coldest time of year. Oh, Christmas tree, how lovely are thy branches. Oh, Christmas tree, how lovely are thy branches. When winter days are dark and drear, you bring us hope for all the year. Oh, Christmas tree, how lovely are thy branches. Oh, Christmas tree, how lovely are thy branches. You bid us true and faithful be, and trust in God unchangingly. Oh, Christmas tree, how lovely are thy branches.
Good morning and welcome. You are at the Unitarian Church of Baton Rouge, hopefully also joining us from online. And this is the first Sunday of Advent. I am Leslie Runnels, your interim minister, joined by Kathy Smith and Reverend Nathan Ryan, with some musical support from Lee Hartman and Ed Benoit making all the technical magic in the treehouse. If you are joining us from home, I'd like to invite you to get a piece of paper and a pen, as we're going to be doing a little writing later in the service.
So one of the things we want you to know about is there's some activities for you to take part in. If you are a visitor, this is going to be your chance for our last Roots class of the year. It will be this upcoming Tuesday. So go ahead and sign up online if you have not yet had a chance. Also, we are going to have community gatherings at the fire pit in December. So basically on December 11th, we're going to have families of differing ages staggered at the fire pit. So when it's your chance with your children at that age, go ahead and come to the fire pit. We'll look for information on it.
All right, and another thing we wanted to remind you about is the homecoming wall project over here, which is filling up with the beautiful decorated dolls. So as you come back to the church, if you've been gone for the pandemic and it's your first time coming back, or second or third, we want to make sure that you make one of these dolls and put your name on it and add it to the wall, because this symbolizes us, that we are returning to this space. Also, during middle hour today, we're going to have Art in Spirit, where you can create an ornament for the tree. We're going to have a scavenger hunt for Advent. And if you just want to hang out in the conversation circle, we'll have that set up as well. And Kathy has assured me that the weather forecast says that the rain will be gone by middle hour. So she must be in contact.
We can confirm that that is true. There will not be any rain. So if you're watching this online,
Hallelujah.
come on down. Also, there's two things I want you to know about what's coming forward. So in the before times, we would have a Christmas tree decorating party usually today in the afternoon. We're just not. Both a combination of COVID mitigation measures and because there's just so much going on. And our experience of members in this church is that half of you are ready to go and make things happen, and half of you are completely burned out. And so the advice we were given over and over by trauma experts is go slow, go slow, go slow. So we are going to decorate this tree slowly in between the services. So we still want to make all of the stuff that we normally have, but we're just going to do it a little more slowly. Also, there is a change coming with Christmas Eve. So here's our Christmas Eve problem. Normally we get about 300-something people in here. That's not safe for us where we are with the pandemic. And what I'm expecting, although so far I'm wrong, but I'm expecting a surge to come in December. So we're going to have 3 Christmas Eve services. We're going to have one at 4:30 or 4. I wrote it down, but I don't remember which.
4:30.
4:30, and that's going to be, and at 6, those will be carol and candles services. So it's going to be a more condensed version of the service, and then we are going to have the one that you would traditionally expect at 7:45, so a little bit later. There are RSVPs up for all 3 of those on the website. We're going to cap capacity just like we're doing here. So just prepare for that. And actually, I think it's kind of cool. You get to sort of pick the time that works better for you rather than forcing your schedule to work around us.
That it? That's all of them? All right. Today we will be receiving messages of hope from the members of my internship team. I want to send out a little bit of gratitude to them. They've been working with me for a year and almost a half now. So we'll be hearing from Marie Flowers, Irene Cato, Bess Corbett, Holly Haymaker, and Byron McCoffey. And their reflections are deep and wide, and I'm so grateful to be able to bring them to you today. And please settle in for our lesson this morning, brought to you with love from Marie Flowers.
Thinking about hope. We're entering an Advent season, and it's, in my translation, is a time of preparedness to get ready for a revealing of newness. So for me, hope means anticipation. And to dig a little further into what I think hope is, I think we're creatures of hope. Someone once told me or said that as human beings, we're preloaded. We come here preloaded with possibilities, preloaded with the tools we need in order to be these creatures or these beings on earth. So I think hope is part of that package organically. And then as creative creatures, we look at hope. We have different translations of what hope is as a culture, Native American, African, European, we talk about hope in different ways. Some, it's kind of like a brain process. Other, in my looking at other cultures, it's about a story of how to be and how to live hope. And particularly as an African American, hope is something that calls us to action, to do things, and to be guiders and carriers of this thing, to move and to shift, especially when someone or something threatens the hope tool. And I say that as an African American because I'm partly African American, mostly African American, but I think all cultures protect their hope in different ways. So hope is, yes, anticipation, but hope is also who we are as creatures on this planet.
They say that ministry is Laugh, Cry, Laugh, Cry. That was from a book by a Unitarian minister who, he took it out in the second edition because he didn't like it, but it stuck with me for a while. So we have sad and happy. The sad is this Saturday at 10 o'clock. There will be a memorial service for Thomas Bryan St. George. He was born at about 20 weeks and died shortly after. So we're going to have a service for him and for his family. And we also, if you would place a stone, we have a birth of a grandchild, Amelia Wren Elsie. This is Marlene Tim Elsie's grandchild. This ritual is here. It is open for everybody in this church. We invite those who wish to come forward either along the west or the east wall. Take a stone. Let it represent whatever's on your heart, whatever's on your mind. Place it in the chalice bowl. We now invite those who wish to come forward as we place stones. And we say together, with hope to make this a better world, we light this flame. Its light is a symbol of the power of love.
From all that dwell below the skies, let songs of hope and faith arise. Let peace, goodwill on earth be sung, through every land, by every tongue.
Good morning. I have this cup from Progressive Turnout Project. It says, the best way to not feel hopeless is to get up and do something. Well, I agree. Hope looks forward. It is not a passive thing. It's fine to wish upon a star. Sometimes we need to. But it's important to acknowledge that sometimes it's hard to just get up and do something if you can't get out of bed, or you're too depressed, or you got back pain, or something's going on. But that's the point of having a congregation. There are people to help, people to join, people who need your help. A congregation or a supportive group to be there when you face a situation where there is little reason to hope. They help you hope against hope.
For the world, I hope for a solution that we can all come together to avoid catastrophic climate change. I hope that nations and individuals learn to solve their problems without so much violence. I hope for justice. I hope for affirmation of LGBTQ plus identities and individuals. I hope that we will continue to invest in science and discover amazing things about our universe.
I hope that we have fewer losses from COVID going forward, that vaccines and masking work for everybody, and that we are not in that cone of uncertainty from climate change as frequently as we have been in the past. I hope that we can stay connected through the coming year. I hope that each of us can have patience and wait. I hope that we can wait through. I hope that we can wait through the time between when COVID is impacting us quite a bit and when we will be able to be out and about with fewer restrictions. So I hope that we can get past the time when COVID is keeping us apart the way it is now, and that we can get to a place where we can be together.
The season of Advent is here. Today is the first Sunday of Advent, where we focus on hope, where we spend some time waiting and listening, waiting for a new way that is coming, signaled by the birth of a child named Jesus, who brings a new way, brings us closer to a just world, navigated by love. But we aren't there yet, so we still hold on to hope. And sometimes it feels like that is all we can hold on to. The chalice lighting that we just heard says it all. With hope for a better world, we light this flame. Its light is a symbol of the power of love. The last 2 weeks, we hoped for accountability in the court case of Kyle Rittenhouse and the court cases of the 3 men who killed Ahmaud Arbery. While Kyle Rittenhouse and the court case was found innocent and will not be held accountable by the court system, the 3 white men who killed Ahmaud were found guilty of 23 charges, bringing back some hope that the world we dream of living in is being built, slowly, day by day, case by case. For indeed, hope is a journey. It's not an end product. It is a vision, a dream, a wish for a better world. And hope takes time. Our thoughts don't control the outcome. While I hope that Kyle Rittenhouse would be held accountable for the lives he took, those of Joseph Rosenbaum, Anthony Huber, and Gage Grosskreutz. But that isn't what happened. My hope could not control the outcome. But my faith that we are on a path to a new way of collective liberation, kept my hope alive that Ahmaud's killers would be met with justice, and they were. Hope isn't based in reality. I am also an abolitionist, and I don't want any more people going into the prison industrial complex that is moving towards corporate privatization. I still have hope for new ways of mitigating harm and repairing harm when it happens. Ending poverty is a start on that. Hope is about a future want, about what we want to see, meaning we aren't quite happy with how things are right here, right now. You may have hope that we have coffee hour soon. We're not ready. You may have hope that I won't talk about racism today. Sorry about that. Or hope that your child comes home safe tonight, that your test results come back negative, that you don't run out of money before the next paycheck. So we have hope. Hope that things will change, that the new way is coming, that justice is coming. So with that spirit of a new way, a new world bent on justice, let us light our Advent wreath. We invite Isabel and your family to come up if you'd like to join, to come up and light the Advent candle, Advent wreath. Spirit of hope, come in, for the days darken, and we sometimes wonder if our work is for naught. Wounded souls in a wounded world, we need you. Grant us patience. Fill us with promise and potential. Fill us with joyous anticipation of possibility. Fill us with the hope of this season. And now rise in body or spirit as we sing carol number 224 in your gray hymnal, Let Christmas Come.
Let Christmas come, its story told, when days are short and winds are cold. Let Christmas come, its lovely song, when evening soon and night is long. Let Christmas come, its great star glow. Our quiet city sleeps below. Let Christmas come, its starlight beam, love born again, a quiet dream. Let Christmas come, grant us its peace. When night is dim, our light increase. Let Christmas come, the light now sings and shares the joy the season brings.
Hope, to me, is about believing that good things are possible. Not inevitable, not even necessarily probable, but definitely possible. And for that reason, worth holding on to and believing in and striving for.
So I have a story about that for me. In August, my nephew Luke was so badly burned, we were not sure he would live. His mother's congregation, a Buddhist group in Durango, Colorado, began a nightly loving kindness meditation practice held for Luke and his mom. It was open to all who cared. Here's what we said for him every night by Zoom. And take this for yourself, no matter what your situation today. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you hold yourself with compassion. May you heal deeply. May you be safe and free from pain. May you be peaceful and at ease. May you always know how much we love you. Luke walked out of the hospital 2 weeks ago, raised his arm, which, like almost all of his skin, had been completely grafted, and hailed a cab. Did our meditation practice have an effect on this remarkable young man? Who knows? But what I do know is this: being together, if only via Zoom, gave us hope.
For me personally, I hope for things like health and long life for my loved ones, that they will always find joy and fulfillment in their lives. I hope that my child will grow up to be a good person and that we will always have a trusting and loving, close relationship with one another.
So I have a story to share and an activity to do. So on the way in, y'all were invited to pick up a notebook and a pencil. I'm not sure that everybody got those, and so I've asked the ushers, if you did not receive a notebook on the way in, could you raise your hand and they will bring you one? Thank you so much. Because the story has to do with a notebook and a children's author. It's a story by the woman who wrote, tell me if you've heard in any of these books. She wrote Flora and Ulysses, Because of Winn-Dixie, and one you might know called The Tale of Despereaux, because that one's been made into a movie. So this story is from Kate DiCamillo. She writes, this morning I woke up thinking about a 5th grade boy who came through a book signing here in North Carolina. I signed his copy of Despereaux, and he said, my teacher said that 5th grade is the year of asking questions. Really? I said. Yeah, he said. He took out a notebook. Every day we're supposed to ask someone different a good question and then write down the answer when they're done talking. Oh, I said, I get it. I'm the someone different. Okay, what's your question? My question is, how do you get all that hope into your stories? That's not a good question. I said, that's a great question. Let me think. I guess that writing the story is an act of hope. So even when I don't feel hopeful, writing the story can lead me to hope. Does that make sense? Yeah, he said. It's kind of a long answer, but I can write it all out. Thanks. And he picked up his copy of Despereaux and walked away, writing in his notebook. That was years ago. Why did I think of this child today? Perhaps because this is a good time to be asking good questions, a time to write down the answers, a time to listen to each other really well. I'm going to get myself a little spiral notebook. I'm going to listen and hope. And so this morning, each of y'all got a little notebook. And if you choose to do it, we're going to invite you to do some listening and some hoping over the next week. If you are going to ask someone some really good questions, especially about hope, but really any good questions, what would be a good question to ask? And because I know that sometimes notebooks go into pockets and purses, we actually built in a little time this morning, about a minute, for you to think right now about what those questions might be. Maybe during the week you'll be inspired, or during the sermon you'll be inspired to add some more. And the invitation for the rest of this week, in this first week that we are exploring hope, is to ask some of your questions to different people, because this is a good time to start asking good questions, to write down the answers, a time to listen to each other really well, a time to listen and hope. And so now as Lee plays, I would invite you to write down questions that you might ask someone else this week in your little notebook.
Thank you for that time, Kathy. I actually have another sermon writing right now. In the early 1900s, with the great migration of Europeans that came to America, they were put to work in factories. Henry Ford's automobile factory in Detroit, Michigan was one of them. But the Europeans, who weren't yet white, but were German, English, Irish, Italian, French, Hungarian, were not getting along with each other, and this was impacting Ford's bottom line, the company profit. The European immigrants weren't getting along because of culture, class, and the history shared between different countries who may have been at war with each other throughout their history or part of oppression against each other. So Henry Ford created a school in Detroit called the Ford English School, where the immigrants could come and learn English, learn how to be American, learn how to be white. And please note that this school was built for European immigrants, not for Black, brown, or indigenous workers. Once they finished school, they had an outdoor graduation theater called the Melting Pot Ceremony. And here is a picture of one such graduation. It's an old picture from July 4th of 1917. But on the left-hand side, the workers are coming up on the left side of the stage in their traditional clothes. They're wearing lederhosen and tams and kilts and berets, still tied to their ancestry, still tied to their relationship to home and land, to their cultures, to their language, to their food, to their dance, to their humor. They go into the melting pot and they melt all that indigeneity off them. They change clothes and they come out the other side of the melting pot in American homogeneous suits, waving an American flag and wearing a boater hat. They are no longer German or Irish or Polish or Dutch. They are now white and American. You can take the picture down now, Ed. Thank you. Reverend Eric told me about how Henry Ford had a picture of Hitler in his office. I was like, what? And he told me that Hitler had a picture of Henry Ford in his office. I was like, what? Because Ford had written anti-Semitic articles that Hitler appreciated. This was all news to me, but it fits this story, it fits this puzzle. Henry Ford, this white American man, head of a corporation, a leader in this nation of corporations, needed workers to get along, and culture and history were getting in the way. He was waiting for a new way, too. He believed that white is right and the American way is right. His leadership style was not about listening to each other. He was about shutting down the conversation, not addressing the conflict between peoples, countries, and ancestors, but about assimilating into whiteness and rightness. So this means that some of our ancestors never dealt with the conflict between them, conflict that might have started with their ancestors. They were encouraged to pretend everything is okay, melt it away, and assimilate. A very dehumanizing process, a process of deculturization. Understanding what has been done to my and some of your ancestors helps me understand what has been done to ancestors of people of color and how to hope for a new way forward. Because a very similar process was in place and still is for Black, brown, and indigenous people, from slavery to fake freedom dues to Indian boarding schools, where we have now uncovered more than 5,000 children buried on school grounds across North America, to the rally cry of learn English, or if you don't like it here, go back. So we here are Advent-urously hoping and waiting for a new way, hoping for new styles of leadership to help us get there. Because Ford's model of leadership no longer stands in a world hell-bent on creating a just world, as we work and play for here at this church and in our faith. We are invited into finding new ways to listen to each other and to use healthy ways of managing conflict. Because as we become congregations focused on anti-racism and collective liberation, we are going to struggle and find conflict all along this new way. A conflict needs to be held with hope so that new models of growth and liberation can emerge, a new way, an Advent-urous new way of hope for a better world. Ed, can you show that other picture, please? This image is a drawing of a sound sculpture created by my dear artist friend, Emin Levy. This came to my memory the other day and seems to represent a new way of listening, a new way of holding out for hope. So there is a large block of ice that has a lot of pebbles and pennies and buttons and bells frozen throughout it. And as the ice melts, the items will fall and make sounds as they land on the objects below: gongs, drums, hollow wood objects, metal discs, chimes. And then the items will plop into the water at the bottom of the pool. Thanks, Ed. You can take it down. The idea is that you have to sit around and wait for the ice to melt over time. And the items in the ice will fall down and strike the instruments at the bottom, making a new sound. And that sound is with a capital S. We may sit there hoping that one of the objects hits the gong, because we want to know what that sounds like. Wondering what it sounds like when a bell drops and hits a drum, or when a penny hits a wooden chime. And we may have to wait a while based on where the ice is melting and what objects are melting out first and where. We will have to sit and wait to hear the sound. It will take time. I think we can make a correlation to how we hope and wait for justice to rain down like water. I think of this sculpture and note that the whole time water is dripping down onto the surfaces below, this slow, constant dripping of melting ice. But we are sitting there anxiously waiting for the objects to drop, because that is what we're waiting for. But what is that constant sound of water dripping? Is that just daily life? As we stroll and go about doing our business? Is that microaggressions happening all day long? That constant drip? Is that water dripping a little bit torturous? That sound, that repetitive sound over and over? Do we want to ignore it for it to just go away? It's not the main attraction we're here for. Maybe the objects dropping down and making a sound, try and draw an S backwards, is the sound of indigenous leadership, or the sound of truth from LGBTQ+ leaders, the sound of Black women leaders, the sound of youth who know when we have missed our mark and aren't scared to call us in hope that we build a better world. Both of those images we have seen are about melting. One is about melting away our culture, our history, our ancestors so that we get along. And the other is about listening to the melting. I hope that we will learn to love taking the time to listen to each other so that we move towards a culture of collective liberation. I know I need help with this. Sometimes I'm quite convinced I know it all and that I don't need to listen to people who I have prejudged to be on the wrong side of the arc of justice. I know that hope for a new way includes listening to all people, to all beings on this planet.
This is a reading that is actually a song. And at the end of it, we're going to do it as a reading, but at the end of it, we're going to turn it into a chant. And Debbie and Leslie will come up and help us either by patting here or stamping if you can, to help us make this chant come alive in the sanctuary. The reading starts, "You say your heart has been turned to stone. You say you want to be left alone. You say love only makes you weep and moan. Let me tell you something you know in your bones. You say waiting for love takes too long, dulls a sharp mind, weakens the strong. You may be right, but you may be wrong. Love can make a mountain come tumbling down. The river washes over every woman and man. Feet in the gravel, mud in your hands. Nothing can stand against love's command. Every boulder will turn into a grain of sand. And if you could start with me. Love is the water that wears down the rock. Love is the water that wears down the rock. Love is the power that won't be stopped. Love is the power that wears down the rock. Love is the water that wears down the rock. Love is the water that wears down the rock. Love is the power that won't be stopped. Love is the water that wears down the rock. Love is the water that wears down the rock. Love is the water that wears down the rock. Love is the power that won't be stopped, 'cause love is the water that wears down the rock. Love is the water that wears down the rock. Love is the water that wears down the rock. Love is the power that won't be stopped. Love is the water that wears down the rock.
And so now I'll invite you into a moment of prayer and reflection. The God that we know when we see justice and love and hope and kindness, that mystery named and unnamed, be with us on this day. And hold all of us in this room and watching online. Hold all of us who make this a congregation. Hold all of us who have failed, and help us to try again. And hold all of us who know this is a hard season, made harder by the pretending that this is a great season. Hold all of those who are just trying to make it through these next few weeks. Help us to remember that grief and fear and anger are a part of celebrating Christmas. Help us to listen to the care from others, even when it isn't obvious. Help us to lighten the load for other people, to be with them as they retreat from their fear and discover who all of us were meant to be. May those who are grieving know peace. May those who are exhausted know rest. And may those who long for justice finally receive it. Amen.
Before
And so now we're coming to the generous portion of this service. Remember, this whole month, we are sharing our offering with Diversity House. This is your last chance to share with Diversity House. There's some logistics also for you to know. Anything that you put in the offering plate in the bursar or pledge online, pay online through the various ways that you can give, that is split directly in half to Diversity House and us. If you are paying your offering, that is an entirely different, I mean, if you're paying off your pledge, please mark that when you give. So with that, I will ask you to give very generously as this morning's offering is given and received.
I hope that we don't have to worry as much about either COVID or about climate change, about hurricanes, about ice storms, about floods. I hope that we can move past the worry. I hope that we can move to a place where I hope that we can become more connected and at peace. I hope that there are connections that we can strengthen in our community. I hope that there are connections that we can strengthen within the church and within our family. I hope that we feel loved. I would really like for all of us to feel loved in 2022.
And I just hope that I can stay close with my friends and my family, and to always have that sense of inner peace and joy within reach, even in times of grief and sorrow, to remember that better days are behind and ahead.
Hope doesn't ask for anything back, and I end with saying what is best said by Emily Dickinson, so I will read her poem, Hope is a Thing with Feathers. Hope is a thing with feathers that perches in the soul and sings the tune without the words and never stops at all. And sweetest in the gale is heard, and sore must be the storm that could abash the little bird that kept so many warm. I've heard it in the chillest land and on the strangest sea, yet never in extremity it asked a crumb of me.
Hope is what protects us from hopelessness and despair. Hope rides right along in the car with despair, but hope should always be driving. Hope is our designated driver, especially in this season of Advent as we look forward to a new birth, a new way, a better world. In her book, Pleasure Activism, Adrienne Marie Brown shares that hope is about not giving up joy. We hold on to hope and joy. Hope is our way to joy. She drums with hope in seeing people not going back to crap jobs that dehumanize people and pay them pitiful wages. She sings hope alive when she hears about collaboration and mutual aid communities. And she dances with hope when she sees our imaginations expanding into finding new ways to reach that new world. I hope for you that you take this season to hope all of your hopes. Put them out there into the world. Let the world know you hope for these things. Don't hold them inside. Let them out. Let them see the light of day so that we can find our way. Amen. Ashe. And may it be so. Now, please rise and body your spirit for our closing carol, number 226 in the gray hymnal, People Look East.
People look east, the time is near of the crowning of the year. Make your house fair as you are able. Trim the hearth and set the table. People look east and sing today. Love, the guest is on the way. Furrows be glad, the earth is bare. One more seed is planted there. Give up your strength, the seed to nourish, that of course the flower may flourish. People look east and sing today. Love, the rose is on the way. Stars keep the watch with night is dim. One more light the bowl shall brim, shining beyond the frosty weather, bright as sun, the moon to gather. People look east today. Love, the star is on the way.
It doesn't rain forever. And it never feels hopeless forever. Please remember, where we are now is better than where we were. Maybe that's a COVID thing. Maybe that's talking about 500 years ago. But the world is better because you are here. Go make it better for someone else who's got to meet you. Amen. Go in peace.